No, stop it. What's up, guys? Let's hope this thing keeps working. For some reason on the MacBook, I could not get it to work. I don't know if there's a setting or something. I never had Google Chrome on the MacBook, so I had to download it yesterday. And that's what YouTube Live supports, is Chrome or whatever. So, oh, we got somebody joining in. Who's up? Okay. Let's see if we can get some people in here. Who is on right now? Alright, who's on? I don't know where you guys are at, but I hope it's a little bit warmer and less snowy than it is here. We actually got quite a bit of snow overnight. The quality looks pretty crappy on the screen right now, so I don't know what it looks like to you guys. Let's see. All right. Anyway, so I always like talking about this kind of stuff because it's just it's interesting, it's fun. So I wanted to go over a list of all the cars that I've owned. Oh, I'm not. All right, so let's talk about the very first car I ever owned. I have a list. It's kind of funny. My buddy Kody, he was in a couple of the videos. Me and him both keep a list on our phones of all the cars that we both had. It's just something that we've done forever. I don't know why, but the very first car that I ever owned was a '97 Dodge Dakota. A family member actually bought the vehicle for me. It was a friend of mine's. It was his dad's car or his dad's truck, and he didn't want that. He only wanted like $200 or something for it. So my dad's buddy ended up buying it for me, and I never even really got to drive it. I drove it around like a block a couple times or something. I didn't even have a license yet. So I ended up, I was going to do like a little project on it. I was just going to try and fix it up and just use it to haul my bike around. I used to BMX like a lot. That was like my big thing to do. So I ended up actually selling it to Kody after we had it parked in a lot where my dad was working at the time. And somebody ended up breaking into the shop and they just destroyed a bunch of our stuff. They ended up like smashing the ignition out of it. They busted all kinds of stuff out of it, spray painted a bunch of our machines and stuff there. So I ended up selling it to Kody for $160 and a 312 speaker box. So I ended up just getting rid of that, and he pushed it to his house, his grandma's house, which was across the street, and he ended up fixing it up, and I think he sold it for like $700 or $800 or something. Like, you know, it was a good flip for him. So that's how our good relationship started, with me and him on the car things. We were friends way before that, but that's what kind of started that whole thing. And then after that, I didn't have a car for a while. I just rode my bike around. And then when I got my second car, that was a '98 Saturn. It was an SL2, a 5-speed manual 4-door. I bought that from Justin, which I don't know what you guys know him as, his buddy, Big Haas, whatever. I bought it off of him for $1,200, and I worked for like a couple weeks and just gave him money like every week. And the car was up in Gladwin, and I didn't have a license yet. And I've drove manual cars, but I've never drove a manual car that far. So I ended up paying it off, and I went and got the car, and I drove the car all the way back from Gladwin to Sterling Heights. It was like a 2.5-hour drive, and I never, like I said, I never drove a car that far in manual. So I had that car for a long freaking time. Like I probably put like 10, 15 different stereo systems in it, subs, and I had two 15-inch audio pipe eye candies in it. Like that little car was so freaking loud with the system in it, and I had it for a long time. I ended up actually crashing it. I rear-ended somebody because they were parked like halfway in the street, and I was trying to get to school, and I had my brother and somebody else in the car with me, and yeah, we ended up crashing it. So I found a parts car and I swapped a bunch of stuff on it, and I really wish I could show you guys pictures of these cars as it went, but I crashed it, found like a parts car, swapped a bunch of stuff over to it, and drove it around for a little bit longer, and then one day it just started knocking. So I posted it online for sale. I sold it for like $200 or something, for $300. And the guy called me like an hour after he bought it off me and told me he blew it up. And I told him, I was like, dude, it has a rod knock. It's not going to go far. And he wanted to drive it like 2 hours home. So I'm going to try and show this picture right here. That was the car. It's just a little beater car. It was a fun car, though. I could put $5 in gas and it would last me 2 weeks going back and forth to school. So I don't have a picture of that Dodge. But yeah, I ended up selling that thing. So what would be the next car after that? That would be I think that was my green Saturn that I had after that, or my green Grand Prix. Yeah, I had it. So after that, I bought a '96 Grand Prix. It was a two-door. Those are like my favorite body style Grand Prix. I love them. I've had a couple of them. So I ended up buying that for I think $500, and it needed some door handles. I drove that thing around forever, put a bunch of systems in it, and I was doing backwards, like little backwards donuts on my buddy's street in front of his house, and I ended up blowing the trans in it. I didn't blow it. It started shifting hard and shifting funny after that. So I ended up just I traded that for another Saturn because I really wanted another manual Saturn again. The car was fun. So I ended up trading that for, wait, did I trade that? Yeah, I did. I traded that for another green Grand Prix. Wait, hold on. I'm confused now. I traded the green Grand Prix for another a green Saturn is what I did. It was a little manual Saturn. It was just a beater. It had no, like half the interior was missing on it. It had bacon duct tape all over the ceiling. Alyssa and her sister and brother know about that car because we drove everywhere in that thing all the time. So I ended up, I think I ended up, I don't know what happened to that car. Oh, yeah. So that car started actually knocking a little bit. Why is she calling me? Hello? Okay. What? Oh, okay. All right, well, I'm going to keep doing this. Love you, bye. You can talk to her in a minute. So yeah, after that, my buddy Kody, actually, I was wanting to talk to him because he has a pretty sweet SRT8 Jeep that he ended up actually blowing it up. But I wanted to do like a little meet up with him one time, maybe like run the cars or the trucks or whatever, and just kind of do like a little show off of his thing because that thing's pretty sweet. So I ended up. Are you listening? He had that car posted for sale, and it was actually one of my old friend's cars that he ended up doing all kinds of work to. He did a lot of stuff to it, so I ended up buying that off of him for like, I think it was like $600 or something. And I love that Grand Prix. It had like almost like a Corvette blue paint job on it. Hold on, guys. Sorry, she's bothering me about a piece of candy. Let's see here. I have a picture of both of those. I know for sure. So that was the Green Grand Prix. I don't know why. I absolutely love that body style car. It's my favorite Grand Prix out there. And I had to sell it obviously because I blew the trans in it. I'll find a picture of that blue Grand Prix. The blue Grand Prix was pretty sweet too. I put a bunch of systems and stereos and that thing too. And after that one, this is a long list. I've had a lot of vehicles. So after that blue Grand Prix, I bought a 2000 single cab 1500 Dodge Ram, and I got that because I saved up a little bit of money, and then with my graduation money, I bought that truck. And I remember I wanted this truck so bad because I was just a Dodge person. And Mackenzie, go away, please. I love the Dodge Rams. I love the 1500 single cabs. Like, I wanted to lift this thing, and I took it to my house. I remember telling my dad, I'm like, Dad, this truck is great. It's perfect. It's in great condition. And as soon as I pulled up to the front of the house, I blew a brake line. It was all rotted out. So I ended up buying it anyway. My dad put a brake line on it for me. And I kind of got bored of that, and I really wanted a GTP, a Grand Prix. So found somebody online, and I traded this girl. I don't know why she did this either. She wanted something with more room because she had a kid. So I traded her my single cab Dodge Ram for a two-door Grand Prix GTP. So I'm gonna shut this thing. I don't know why this is so nasty here. Okay, yeah, that's done absolutely nothing. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to get this to look. Oh, why does this look so bad? Alright, whatever. We're just gonna leave it because I'm gonna make it worse. Yeah, I don't know why she traded me that. She wanted something with more room, and that had way less room, and it was a single cab truck. So the Grand Prix, I had a flat black paint job with a clear coat over it, and oh, Alyssa just sent me a picture of my blue Grand Prix. Thanks, babe. When my buddy had it, he had 20s on it, and there was Mustang wheels on it, and that car was so freaking sweet. Thanks, babe. But trying to find a picture of that black Grand Prix I had. At one point in my phone, I had a picture of like every single vehicle I've owned. She's right. All my cars were on Instagram. But I'm going to have to look back for a long time to try and find those. I have a lot of pictures on Instagram. I'll get you something in a second. I'm trying to do something here. These kids are just driving me absolutely nuts. I finally got this thing to work, and now that I can actually sit down and do it, these guys are just being crazy, and it's not letting me, or they're not letting me do what I want to do here. So, let's see here. I'm looking for the black Grand Prix. Oh, this is when I smashed the Saturn. So did a little number on that one, but it wasn't enough to where I couldn't drive it anymore. So this was the black Grand Prix. Like I said, it had a really cool paint job. It was like a flat black with a clear coat over it, so you could look at it and you could see the paint or the black, but then you could also see right through it, or you could see the clear, and then you could see right through it and see the black. It was pretty cool. But this was the green Dodge Ram that I bought. That was my little brother sitting on top of it. So it had some rust, but it was a good truck. It had the 5.9 in it. And I had a lot of plans for it, but I just never got around to it because I didn't really have the money and time. I was younger. So yeah, I ended up getting the Grand Prix. And after a while, I got bored of that thing too, like I usually did of vehicles. And I found a Jeep Wrangler that had it had a 79 Bronco sitting underneath it. Mumbly's Off Road built it. One of the employees there built it, and then he ended up getting bored of it, and he sold it to some kid. And the kid who had it had really no idea what to do with it. He had nothing to do with that thing. So, I think she actually sent me a picture of my Jeep too. So this was my Jeep. It was a beast. It had 15 and a half wide Thornbirds on it. 35s. They were balder and all hell. It was horrible. So I drove that thing around for a long time. Like I put subs in it and we took it out and had a little bit of fun in it. And it just wasn't like that was my daily driver. And that was at the time where I started like getting into like full-time jobs. And I'm like, this thing is not meant for, driving back and forth for a daily job or, my normal day job. So I ended up posting that thing up online. I think I sold it for like $4,800. And at that time, I really only had like $1,000 invested to where I got to that Jeep. I think I paid, or it was like $1,200. I bought something cheap and I flipped it for more and I flipped it for more and then I flipped it for more, put a little bit more money into something, and then ended up pretty much getting a $4,800 return out of like a $1,200 investment. So yeah, I sold that, and at the time I was like, I think that was right when like Paul Walker might have died. I think it was when he passed away, and I always had a dream of buying an Eclipse. That was like one of my favorite cars, like in Fast and Furious. It was my absolute favorite car ever, and I wanted one so bad. So I ended up finding a '95 Eclipse. It was a GSX all-wheel drive. It was a 5-speed, and it had a ton of stuff done to it already. I think it was running like 20 pounds or something when I got it, and I drove it around for a little bit. I had a ton of fun with it, just kind of, just plasti dip and stuff, doing what us kids would do to a car like that. And I ended up actually, after I think maybe like a year of owning it or something, I ended up trading it for a Ford Ranger. And the Ford Ranger was a cool little truck. I mean, that thing was, this is a picture of it. It had a 6-inch lift on 35s, and it had a Eddie Bauer front axle on it, and it was a cool truck. I had tons of fun in that thing too, and that was one of the nicest lifted trucks I think I had, because I could drive down the road and I could let go of the steering wheel at 85 and I could just keep going straight. It rode smooth. It was a good truck, but I was like really regretting trading it because I wanted my Eclipse back. So I ended up getting contact with the kid I traded it to, and he was kind of like, "Yeah, I missed my truck." So I ended up getting my Eclipse back from him, and from that point on, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna try and build this thing. Like, I want to do a ton of stuff to it." So, oh wait, I lied. I screwed that all up right there. That's not what happened at all. I didn't trade it. I didn't trade it back. I actually. Wow, this is kind of hard to think back to it. I ended up selling the Ranger. Or no, I traded the Ranger for a Mustang. I traded it for a 4.6 white Mustang, and this Mustang was super, super, super clean, like really, really, really clean. And Oh, no way. I just didn't go all the way back to the top. Yeah, I traded the Ranger for the Mustang. This was the Mustang right here. That tire or that Mustang had tires that were so bald in the back they started bowing in like this, and I was driving it every day back and forth to work in the wintertime, and then come springtime I bought new tires for it. Did it all backwards, but I love that thing. I had tons of fun in it, and I ended up posting that online just for shits and giggles. I wanted to sell it just to kind of see what I could get for it, because I had a weird infatuation with just buying and selling cars. It was just fun always having something new. So I sold that thing for like $4,800 or $4,500 or something, and that's when I ended up. Let me see here. Let me look at the list real quick. The list is the only thing that helps me. What, Mackenzie? Yeah, because it's on live. You can watch me on the TV in the living room. I want to, before I get way off track with the Eclipse, I ended up getting the Eclipse back from whatever, and I put a ton of money into it. I put a bigger turbo, bigger injectors, bigger intercooler, a speed density MAF delete. I had the DSM link, the full V3. I had a ton of stuff put in that car, and I was so excited to get this thing back and just have a nice little built car. I mean, like the first time I ever drove that thing, it was me and Justin when we went and picked it up, and I could not stop giggling every time I shifted gears just because of the wastegate and the blow-off valve. I couldn't get enough of it. So I got it back, put a bunch of stuff into it, and we were actually going up north to go camping with Alyssa's family. And Kenzie, turn it down. And we went to go to the phone store to pay her bill, and I pulled off at a light, and I was having problems with the car blowing oil lines off the oil cooler. And I remember pulling off at that light. I went to go shift into second, and the car just kind of chugged forward. And what? The car like chugged forward, and I got out. We pulled over, and I looked underneath it, and sure as shit, it was just pouring oil out of that oil line again. And then we were kind of sitting there, and I started noticing smoke was coming out of the windshield wiper sprayers, and I popped the hood, and the car was on fire. Lucas, stop it, please. And I popped the hood, and thank God my cousin left some pop in the back seat, and I used it to kind of pour out the fire, and that was the end of that car. I parted it out, and I pulled the motor out of it, sold it to my buddy John, and I've lost my ways with it. I cried. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I cried when that car caught on fire. I had tears in my eyes, and the worst part about it was when we left to go camping was the same weekend that we had like the worst flooding that could have ever happened around here. So, Mackenzie, you guys need to be quiet, please. So, we had like the worst flooding that could have ever happened. And when we got back, my car caught on fire with my sunroof open and my windows down. So when I got back, the car was it was done. It got the worst of everything. It got fire, it got water, it got abandoned by me. I left to go camping, and it just got the worst of everything. So, like I said, I just parted it out and just went on my way with it. But, I sold that white Mustang for like $4,800, and for some reason I really wanted a ZR2 Sonoma. So I ended up finding, getting a, let's think here real quick. I ended up finding a ZR2 Sonoma, a little like S10 or it was a ZR2 Sonoma, and it was kind of like jacked up a little bit. It had 33-inch BFG all-terrains on it, and I drove it around. It wasn't nothing special. I didn't really care for it, and the trans ended up actually starting to shift funny in it. So I posted it online, and some kid messaged me, and he had a ZR2 Blazer, and my dad had a Blazer when we were kids, and Alyssa had a Blazer too, and I absolutely loved those things. The ZR2 Blazers were just they were good vehicles, other than the GM problems or the GM problems. I'm sorry, I guess so, but they were always known for like intake manifold gaskets and stuff like that and coolant problems. So that's the only thing that kind of like steered me away from it. But I always wanted one, so I met this kid up and I told him, I was like, dude, the trains are shifting funny. And this Blazer was like in immaculate shape. Like there was nothing wrong with it. And he traded me anyway. So I drove around that thing forever. And that was probably like honestly one of the longest I've ever had a vehicle for. We had it for a long time. Hold on one second, guys. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's these kids are probably screaming in the background. It's probably hurting your ears. They were being pretty good this morning, so I figured I could go ahead and do this now that I finally got it to work, and they're just kind of being wild. So, yeah, I had that Blazer, and while we had the Blazer, we were living in our apartment, and that's when we found out that Alyssa was pregnant with our first kid, Mackenzie. And I'm like, well, we're gonna have to get a 4-door vehicle. So I ended up saving up a little bit of money, and I bought a 2004 Impala. It was a white 4-door. I paid like $1,800 or something for it, and it had a fuel leak in it out of the fuel filter. So we never even actually ended up doing anything with it. We just kind of left it. I wasn't really a big fan of it. So I ended up posting it up online for sale or for trade. I kind of wanted to sell it for another 4-door vehicle, or I posted it up for trade for like a mud toy or something. And this kid ended up getting in touch with me, and he had a '93 Jeep Wrangler. It was on 35s, had a brand new rough country lift, and it was just a straight mud toy. It wasn't daily driver down the street. It was a mud toy only. Well, he ended up messaging me, said he was on his way, and it was getting like really late at night. So I messaged him. I said, hey, call me when you're here. I'm going to bed. I got to work in the morning. So he ended up calling me at like, I don't know what it was. He got there super late at night. It was way past midnight. So I went out there and I was looking at it, and I'm like, whatever, dude, just drop it here, take the car. I'll talk to you later. I never looked at the title, which I don't ever do. I always check the VIN, always look at the title. I always look at a car, look at it in and out. And that next morning, I looked at the title, and there was like 5 different signatures on the purchaser. So what happened is his brother ended up dying, passing away, and he tried selling it by forging his brother's name, and then that person got it, and they tried forging their signature over his brother's signature over his, and pretty much what happened is the Jeep ended up coming back, reported stolen, and the Jeep ended up disappearing. So we got rid of that thing, got our hands away from it, no legal trouble or nothing. So still had the Jeep at the time, or not the Jeep, the Blazer, and I still had the Eclipse because I was still in the process of parting it out. So in between that, I bought just a couple other different cars. I bought a '99 Cougar for like $300. It needed a fuel pump. We were gonna fix it, and Alyssa was gonna drive that because her Blazer that she originally had ended up blowing up. It had a rod knock, so we just got rid of it. And I was gonna buy this little Cougar, or whatever, and I was gonna fix it, and she could drive it. So like I said, I think I paid like $300 for it or something, and me and Kody used his towing to get it back to the house. And just another thing, just for shits and gigs, I posted it up online to see what I could get for it, and I think we ended up selling that car for like $1,500 or something. It was really clean. It just needed a fuel pump. I didn't want to do it, so we ended up. I'm pretty sure we ended up selling our Blazer I sold the Blazer for like 28 or 2,900 bucks to a kid that lived around here. I always seen him driving it. It lasted a long time. So I ended up buying a it was a I'm sorry. It was a 94 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and Justin ended up actually taking us to go get it, and his transmission started shifting funny in this Ford Fusion he had at the time. So we're like, dude, something's not right. It's gonna happen. It wouldn't shift right. It would be stuck in fourth or third or whatever. And sure enough, his trans ended up blowing on the way back to go pick up this Jeep. And the Jeep was just a pile of crap. I don't know why I bought it. I feel like it was such a far drive. And we were actually talking about this yesterday with Justin. I just felt obligated to buy it just because we drove that far. And then Justin's trans blew. And I would have felt like crap if I said I didn't want it and Justin blew his trans over going to get this thing. So, I ended up buying it, and it honestly just sat around. Like I think I only drove it like once or twice, and um, at one point there, I had a couple vehicles at one time, and I don't really remember how it happened, but I had no car at one point. So my aunt ended up actually letting us use her car, and I used her car for months. I mean, thank God for her because that was the only way I was getting back and forth to work. And which is kind of crazy to think back, like how I had that much money to buy all these cars and flip them all the time while still living and paying all my bills, and then all of a sudden I had nothing. I don't know what happened there. Like I was never that kind of guy to where I was, like abusing drugs or anything, where my money was just kind of getting pissed away on stuff like that. I just can't really remember how it all happened. So, um, and the guy I was working for at the time, actually, I sold that Greek the Greek Jesus Christ the Grand Cherokee. I ended up selling that, and um, I just kind of pocketed the money. I just had it sitting around, and then the guy I was working for at the time had a little S10, and he told me he would sell it to me and just kind of take money out of my paychecks or something. So I had that thing for a little bit, and it was a pile of crap. It was no good for what I wanted it for. It was 2-wheel drive. It had no heat, and I just didn't care. So I ended up just giving it back to the guy that I got it from. And I actually forgot a car in there. When we were living with my dad, most of these cars I was just talking about when we lived at our apartment. Um, Actually, I can't remember. I can't remember if we bought a '93 Grand Prix, bought another one, and Justin. I think it was Justin or Kody. They were saying that when I was driving down the road, the thing looked like it was driving like this. It looked like it was like driving sideways. And that's actually what happened. Is the lady hit something? She hit a tire on the expressway. It actually bent the frame on that car. So I ended up getting rid of that thing too. That was a really cool car. It just looked sweet. It had let me see if I can find a picture of it real quick. Here it is. So that was the black Grand Prix that we bought. It was a special edition, so it had like the gold spoked wheels on it. And yeah, we had that thing for a little bit and just kind of got rid of it. But that was that gray Grand Cherokee that we had too. That was a fun one. Not really fun. Not at all. I lied. Um, oh wow, this was that was the S10 that we had. Just a little junker, and I'm trying to go in order of like when I've had these things, but I had some of these cars 6 years ago, so it's like really hard for me to remember. But I think I even skipped this one too. I had this 95 50, and it had these like I think it had Recaro bucket seats in it, racing seats. I paid like $1,000 and some speakers for that car, and maybe I'll just do it this way. I'll just look at these pictures and go off of it. Um, I had this guy too. Yeah, we'll just do this. I'm just gonna look at these pictures instead of trying to go in order because it was a pain. I had this Dodge Neon. It was an '04 SRT4 Neon. That car had a ton. Hey, it had a ton of work to it. 3-inch downpipe, Simon's 1000cc injectors, manual boost controller, 255 fuel pump. It had a watt box control on it. It ran off E85. Like there was a ton. I was making 28 pounds off the stock turbo. I never got a dyno, but the kid I got it from said that he was pushing about 450 to 475. It was a cool car. That was the inside of it. Super fast car. Had the removable steering wheel on it. I actually traded my Power Stroke for that. I had a 70 or 73. Wow. It was a 99 73, and I paid like 5,600 bucks for that truck or something. It was a cool truck. I don't know. For some reason, I just got bored of it. Like I did. I put a intake and exhaust and a tune and stuff on it, and it was a fun truck. It was my first diesel, and it wasn't really fast enough for me. And I actually at the time I ran into like real bad financial problems, and that's why I traded it for the SRT4s because I knew I could get more from the SRT4, and I was just more worried about bills at the time, so I ended up trading it for that. Sold the SRT4 and paid off some bills. So it's kind of crappy how things went. Let's see here. We'll go down. I bought this little Grand Am here. My buddy was driving it past my grandma's house. And he's like, "Hey, do you want to buy a car?" I said, "Which one?" He said, "This one." I was like jokingly with him. I said, "All right, yeah, I'll buy it. I'll give you 200 bucks for it." And he's like, "Okay, I'll be back with the title." I'm like, "All right, cool." I didn't think he, I don't know, I didn't think he was going to do it. And it had low miles. It was under 100,000 miles on that car too. And yeah, I bought it real cheap. I ended up flipping it online and got rid of it real quick. I had cars. I just bought it for like a quick flipper. And I had that. And then at some point, I ended up buying this little Cougar here, or this little Cougar. It was a Cavalier. Paid like 800 bucks for it. Drove it around for a long time. I mean, that was my daily driver back and forth to work. It was a manual. It was a great gas saver car. I ended up selling it because the clutch blew out of it, and I sold it to some kid around the corner from here. And he ended up flipping it, and now it ended up getting crushed in the junkyard. And this car actually has a super, super, super interesting story. It was a Comp G Grand Prix. It was 04. You know, the Comp Gs have the paddle shifters and stuff on the steering wheel. And Kenzie, can you turn down just a little bit, please? And so I bought this car, went down there and looked at it, drove it around, everything was good. And my brother actually went and picked it up for me the next day, drove it home, and then the following day I went to go get in it and go drive it, and the car would not shift. It would first gear would just skip the entire time until it finally hit second. And then after driving around for a little bit, once it warmed up, it was fine. I could drive it anywhere. And I had that car for a long time. And like a couple weeks after I bought it, I went to go wash it, and there was a piece of duct tape or electrical tape on the door. I never noticed it. So I pulled the electrical tape off of it, and it was a bullet hole, like a full-blown bullet hole. And I bought the car from like way down in the ghetto. So I started looking around the car, and I followed the trajectory of the bullet, and the bullet actually came through the door and went down, and then got stuck in the door jamb. And the bullet almost came up to where it would have hit the driver. So I still have the bullet. Actually, I saved it, and yeah, I actually tried scaring Alyssa with that toner. I got shot at, and that didn't work. But actually, I think it did work. I think she got scared. I want to say she did, or she was a little nervous or whatever. But I ended up getting rid of that car. It was a pile of crap, and shortly after that, I think I actually bought this Ranger. I paid 400 bucks and a generator for it, and that's another interesting story actually too. I like talking about this kind of stuff. It's fun. The motor was going in it, and I knew it was going, So I just bought it anyway, and I ended up pulling the motor out of it because the timing chain started slapping. I could hear it flapping in there real bad, and it wouldn't go anywhere. It just had no power. So pulled the motor. I sent it off to a shop to get it rebuilt. I was gonna do it myself, but on the like mid-year of like 2000 2001 Rangers, they make a cam tool that holds all the camshafts in place, and it was like $400 or $500, and the guy was only charging me that to rebuild the motor. He was a local shop. Hey, and he ended up rebuilding it, and I put it back in the truck, and I literally only put like 5 miles on it, and the timing chain ended up snapping again. So I said, screw it, I'm done with it. I posted it online for $2,000, and some old guy called me and said, hey, you still got it? And I said, yep. And he goes, all right, I'll send my driver there. He'll be there in an hour. And the guy like didn't try and like, beat me up on the price or nothing. He was old. I could tell on the phone. So he ended up getting there with his driver, and he like could barely even walk. So I'm like, why are you buying this car? It's got a blown motor. Like, who's gonna fix it? And he's like, well, that's my mechanic and my driver. And he goes, I buy cars and I donate them to people. And I actually found out through keeping in touch with him that he was the founder of Zebert. I don't know how you pronounce it. The Rhino lining place. They do the window tinting. They do all kinds of stuff. So I ended up actually selling that to him. And no, but yeah, I ended up he took it, and then shortly after, some other stuff happened. This was that Cougar that we bought for $300. So, what? No, you just got done eating. I'll make you something in a second. Um, let's see here. After that, this was the Eclipse. That was my like all-time favorite car right there, without a doubt. I absolutely loved it. It bummed me out so bad when I lost that car. This was the Jeep, the stolen Jeep. Kody ended up getting it off from me there for a little bit. Let's see here. Let me go down my list. I gotta look at my list again. I had a Mountaineer that we were borrowing from a family member for a little bit. And then actually, like, this was probably like the most like sentimental vehicle that we ever had. Was while my fiance was still, or no, I'm sorry, she wasn't still pregnant. My daughter was already born. Lucas, no. We actually went to a grad party for Alyssa's a family friend, and we went there, and they ended up giving us a vehicle, and it was a 2006 Buick Terrazza. I don't know how you say it. And this thing was just like, it was immaculate. I mean, it was all leather. It had the TV in it. I mean, it was like the best family car that any person could have ever asked for, was starting out a new family and not having money to buy a vehicle. So they ended up giving that thing to us, and they had it posted for like $7,000 or $6,000 or something. I was so shocked that they did that for us. Like, just absolutely blessed that they did that. And we had that that van for years, and it just slowly over time, I was putting so much money into it, and it just started kind of dying down. The miles got high, so we ended up getting rid of it. And just super blessed that they did that for us. It just kind of still shocks me now that somebody did that for us. But let's see here. I had a Mercury Sable. I bought that thing off of my buddy for $100 because he rear-ended. He was an EMT, and he actually rear-ended another EMT in the winter, and bought that car off of him for $100. I told him, I was like, I'm not trying to get over on you, but I'm going to buy this for $100, and I'm going to fix it and flip it. And he didn't care. He just wanted it gone. So I bought it for $100, and I actually ended up flipping it for, I think, $1,500. I put a bumper on it and a power steering pump, and Alyssa actually cracked the bumper on it because she was messing around with me, and she hit it. I bought a Ford Taurus throughout that time too. Um, I bought this little. It was a '96 Dodge Ram, and it had the 318 in it, but it had all kinds of like Edelbrock stuff. It had a bunch of work done to it actually, and it was that was rusty trusty there. She was a good little truck, but it was just completely rotted out. It was gone. Trying to find a picture of that real quick. So like throughout the time of me buying these vehicles, I had other cars that I was just buying and fixing and flipping. Um, this was the Dodge Ram here. I bought that off of a family member of ours, and it was a good truck. I remember trying to do a burnout in it on my street, and the thing was so clapped out that when I tried to do the burnout, the trans mount was so bad that the trans actually hit the bottom of the floor, and it lifted my arm up on the armrest. I mean, it was just completely rotted out. And this was, I just found this picture. This is off topic here. This is our Blazer that we had there for a long time. It's just so bright. Um, let's see here. So yeah, I ended up selling uh, that Dodge. Um, I love looking at these pictures. It's so fun and just to think back of all them good times. Um, I had this Grand Prix here that I actually bought for $750. I was like super obsessed with these Grand Prix, and on the way home from buying it, the car just died at a light. So I started it up, everything was fine. Got to the next light and it shut off. Then it took a little bit longer to start. Then I got to my aunt's house for dinner, and it wouldn't start after that again. So finally got it started after like a whole night of working on it, and I didn't do anything. I was just looking at stuff, and it magically started. So um, I brought it to my house. You know what? Hold on, this long story. I'm getting talking. Lucas, stop it! I don't know what it is. Yeah, just find it. No, I don't have time to keep looking. I don't have time to see what you're doing. All right, sorry about that. I like coffee and I need some coffee. I'm getting thirsty from talking. Um, so yeah, I ended up getting that. Hey, enough. I ended up getting that Grand Prix to my house, and anything electrical in that car that had to do with, or anything in that car that had to do with spark, because the car was getting fuel. Anything that had to do with spark, I replaced, like crankshaft sensor, the camshaft sensor, the coil packs, the plugs, the wires. I mean, just anything, everything. And I never got it to start. And my buddy actually drove by, and I was sick of dealing with the car. He drove by and he's like, "What are you doing with it?" And I was like, "Dude, give me $500, get it out of here." And actually, that night, I ended up tying the battery terminals together, the negative and the positive. And when you do that, it pretty much drains the vehicle out of any memory of the vehicle. Anything that holds memory storage, it'll completely wipe it out. So I did that. He came by the next day, gave me $500. I was like, "Dude, I don't know if it's going to start. You're going to have to get it towed." So I ended up putting the terminals back on, and the car fired up. He drove it for about a year and a half. I was super pissed. I don't know what happened. Whatever the battery terminal tying thing together did, it worked, and he drove it for a long time. And he actually ended up selling it for like $800. So this is our van. I found that picture too. This is our van that we owned. So let me go back to my list here. So yeah, that car really pissed me off. I mean, I put hundreds and hundreds and probably, if not over the $1,000, trying to get that thing to run right. So Silver Grand Prix. So after a while of dealing with buying a lot of like used vehicles and constantly, like, I think what really made me want to go and buy a newer truck and get into like having a payment was that I remember driving down a road by us, and it was me and Alyssa and Mackenzie and my Dodge Ram, and I remember hitting a pothole, and the front end was the frame was rusted out, it was cracked, and I hit a pothole, and it pushed me all the way over into another lane of like oncoming traffic. And after that, it just made me realize, like, I have a kid now, and having just piles of crap vehicles just was not good. So I ended up going and financing a 2013 F-150. It was an EcoBoost, and I owned the truck for 3 months, and I drove it for 5 days, or 2 months or something. I owned it for 5 days. That's how many times days I drove it, and it was a huge, huge, huge problem money pit. And hey, so it was a money pit. The timing chain ended up snapping, and oil pump was full of metal shavings. And the dealership I bought it from ended up buying it back off me, and they actually delivered another F-150 to my work, and I absolutely fell in love with this truck. It was a 2011 F-150. It was a 3.5 EcoBoost. It was a Lariat. I ended up naming it Larry, and I ended up putting an 8-inch lift on it on 37s on 20 by 12s. I put an better exhaust on it. I mean, I had tons and tons and tons of days spent working on this thing. And let me see here. I know I got a good picture of that thing somewhere. Sorry. So this was actually what it looked like the day I bought it. It was fully loaded. It had heated, air-conditioned seats, sunroof. It had everything, and it didn't look like that long. So I couldn't stand the look of being to the ground. You know, it was super low to the ground. So that's what it looked like pretty much by the time I ended up getting rid of it. I had the TIS wheels on it, and just put a little bit of time and money into it. And I put like 40,000 miles on that truck in a year, and I already had the timing chains done once on it, and I felt like they were starting to go again a little bit, and I ended up wanting to get rid of it. So I traded it in for the Cummins that I have now, and you know, like, even in the middle of having those cars, I bought a Ford Focus. It was a manual 5-speed, and I bought a Grand Prix, which is what kind of, I guess, kind of really made me start this channel. So we're just gonna call him my stepbrother. He was my stepbrother for a long time, and through problems, you know, they ended up separating. But I still consider him a brother, you know, stepbrother to me, his family. And it was a 2000 Grand Prix GTP, and the trans started going in it. And he said he was gonna scrap the car, and I'm like, dude, you're not gonna scrap this car. So I ended up getting the car from him, and I drove the car for a couple months, even with a blown trans in it. It never shifted right. And then one day I was just racing down this road, and the trans ended up blowing in it. So I had a buddy of mine that was like a huge GM guy, huge Grand Prix guy. If anybody out there has Grand Prix that are modified, like they're gonna know my buddy Sean. And thank God for good people. He sold me a trans and put it in for like $700. I'm not a big fan of front wheel drive cars, but I will if I have to. And at the time, I was working so much, I really couldn't. So he ended up actually letting me like make payments on getting the car fixed. Like we went up north and he pulled the trans, rebuilt it, or he pulled the trans, rebuilt another one, and put it in for me in the same weekend. And I ended up getting the car back that week. So I had something to drive. Alyssa was driving my truck, and then I had the Grand Prix. And the car had no heat. I drove it all winter. And then come to find out, all I had to do was just smack the blower motor and it started working again. So I drove it all winter with no heat, and I could have just hit it with a hammer. It would have worked fine. So I had my Cummins. Alyssa had her Ford Escape. Yeah, I had my Cummins, and Alyssa had her Ford Escape. So everything was going good. You know, I had a really good job, and I wanted to do something with the car. So I wanted to post it up to donate it to somebody is what I wanted to do. So I posted it up on this channel, and I put everybody's name in like a generator, and I hit submit and generated a bunch of names, and the first name that came up was actually a kid I went to school with, Tyler. He's a buddy of mine. Which is, I didn't really want to give the car to somebody that I knew because I didn't want anybody to think that I was like doing like a fake giveaway, fake donation or whatever, which is not what happened at all. Like like I said, my part of me was like, I didn't want to give it to somebody that I didn't, or that I knew, because I didn't want that to happen, but I couldn't go back on myself. So I gave it to him, and actually right now the car is sitting because the fuel pump is bad. And he's going through some tough times too, you know, like just like everybody else in the world is. So it's just kind of sitting right now. But my whole goal was to just kind of donate the car, because technically the car was given to me. So I wanted to repay it back, just like that van was given to us. And just kind of wanted to do something nice for somebody. So that's kind of what made me start this channel, was just that Grand Prix, really. I had that, and then I've had a lot of cars, like, off topic. You guys got to check Prime Driven Diesel out. Check them out. Got this cup from them. Good coffee cup. This video has been kind of crazy. I've been going on for an hour of just kids screaming and not really being able to focus on what I wanted to do here. So, you're silly. I don't know if I have a picture of what my truck, what my Cummins looked like the day I bought it. What? This isn't going to work, guys. I should have picked a different time to do this. It's broke, bud. It's broke. It's not going to work. It's broke. Sorry, guys. There's not really anybody watching, but whoever does watch it's going to get bored. Yeah, it's broke. It's not going to work. It's broke. This is a little Ford Focus that I bought. Paid 500, or not 500, maybe like 800, 750 bucks for it, and that car was a really good runner. Let's see. I know I have a picture of that thing somewhere. Sorry, hold on. It's somewhere around here. Let's see. It's right here. Come on. Mackenzie, don't. Turn it down. So this is what my Cummins looked like the day I bought it. It was bone stock. There was absolutely nothing done to it at all. So um, I'm pretty sure I missed a couple vehicles. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure I missed a few, but if I could go back and get like a couple of my cars back, I think I'd probably get back my Mustang, the white one. I'd definitely get back my Eclipse. That was my favorite car, SRT4, and I really like that blue Grand Prix. Um, yeah, I don't know. I was bored last night, and I tried to really get this. I wanted to talk, and it just didn't work. But now that I finally got it to work, it was kind of a bad timing to do it because I couldn't really. I wanted to get all the vehicles in a picture with every one of them, so I could um, show you guys what every one of them looked like. I no, I think that's it. I'm gonna post something on here. I'm gonna go live like maybe sometime tonight, and I have some interesting news that I want to talk to some people about. It's about the Cummins, and I don't know if I'm gonna go. I don't know. I'm gonna try and go live tonight, maybe. If not, I'll just post a video up about it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Whoever watching, only a couple people did, but I can look back at the video now and always remember what vehicles I had. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to y'all later.